You're listening to Don't IEP Alone with special education advocate Lisa Lightner. For more information about Lisa, the IEP Toolkit, and more ways we can help you in your process, go to adayinourshoes.com. Now back to the show with your host, Lisa.
Good morning. It's me, Lisa Lightner from A Day in Our Shoes and Don't IEP Alone. A couple of things. First of all, today's Wednesday, and today is the last day to register this school year for my online training. So it's on sale, and you get my book. When my book comes out this fall, it will be shipped to you automatically when you register for the training. But today is the last day to register for that, so I want to make sure that you're all aware of that. But the other thing I wanted to talk about is, of course, last night, one of the House committees with this big, beautiful bullshit budget bill, they met at 1 a.m. was the meeting. So if that doesn't tell you what they're all about, I don't know what is. Imagine being so hateful and being so destructive that you're willing to get up and meet and go to work at 1 a.m. as a congressperson who these guys make 6-figure salaries and everything. I'm not saying they don't work hard, but like, it's not night shift. You don't have to do it. Anyway, so the Rules Committee met last night about passing the bill, and there are still some holdouts. Yesterday, and I don't know if you saw these news reports, it was so creepy because the president what's the word I'm looking for? He's pressuring the Republicans who are holding out, and he is threatening them with primarying. They'll be primaried. They only ever use it, I guess, in the past tense. They'll be primaried, which means if they don't vote his way and support him with this big bullshit bill, he will find someone to run against them in the primary. And of course, his voters are very good at showing up in the primaries, and regular voters are not. So he gets you removed from office, and he's done it to several people. Of course, one of the most notable being Liz Cheney. Anyway, so yesterday he had this meeting with them, with the people who are holding out, and threatened them with that. And the other thing that I found so incredibly creepy, because, like, of course, the press is getting word that there's dissension or, disputes within the Republican Party, and, oh, hey, you guys aren't getting along, and you're not unified, and all that. And he's like, it was a meeting of love. It was a full, like, it's just so creepy. Like, this dude is so creepy and repulsive. I don't know how people are attracted to him. I really don't. But anyway, so that's where the bill stands now. They have a self-imposed deadline that they want to get this passed by Memorial Day, which of course is 5 days away. So that's not any deadline from anyone besides themselves that they put on themselves, that we want to get this passed by Memorial Day. So there's still time to call, but it is moving quickly, and it's expected that Speaker Johnson will call it to the House, call it for a vote on the House floor, presumably sometime within the next 5 days. I also would assume that it will take place. I would not be at all surprised if they do another sneaky thing where it's like late at night, a weird weekend hour time, something like that, because they don't want to dispute it. You can watch all of these debates and things on C-SPAN if you want. Nobody's up watching C-SPAN at 1 a.m, but some people watch it. If it was on prime time, you wanted to watch that instead of The Voice, you could do that. Or the NBA conference finals, you could do that. So keep calling. The other thing about this bill that I wanted to answer some questions is that I've had, for those of you, and I'm really encouraged that many of you, when I post the links to the PDFs, or I say, well, go Google this or go Google that, you're actually doing it and reading it. And some of you have sent me DMs and stuff and questions and saying, well, some of these things aren't scheduled to happen until 2028 and 2029. So why are we in panic mode now in 2025 if this isn't supposed to happen until 2028, 29? And you're right. Many of these cuts aren't scheduled to begin until 28 or 29. And organize my thoughts. A couple of things. One is that I don't want to be fighting for this. If we lose this battle, we haven't lost the war. Absolutely. However, I don't want to be calling and podcasting and writing and emailing and encouraging and posting on social media for the next 5 fucking years about this, right? Like, let's kill it now, so that we're not constantly stressing and fighting and calling and emailing, and we can move on to the next, and we can move on to something more positive, like supporting the full funding of IDEA bill, which has been proposed in the Senate, things like that. So yes, this is a battle. This is not the war, and we haven't lost it all yet if it happens. However, it's a significant step toward Project 2025 and their agenda. And this budget isn't just a budget. It's a budget that supports all of the ideas in Project 2025. So to pass this is quite significant for the GOP. And so that's another reason why we don't want it to pass in its current form. The other thing I want to mention about this 28 and 29 changes is this. For 5 months now, we've heard our kids and all of their supports and services and our families being linked to waste, fraud, abuse, waste, fraud, abuse, waste, fraud, abuse. And it's just such bullshit. If there's so much waste, fraud, and abuse, and they're saying that, only people who don't deserve to have Medicaid will be kicked off Medicaid, and it's to get rid of waste, fraud, and abuse and all that. If there's so much waste, fraud, and abuse, why are you willing to wait 3 or 4 years and let this waste, fraud, and abuse continue? If you're not going to make these changes for 3 or 4 years, how tragic is this waste, fraud, and abuse? How significant is it if you're willing to not do anything about it for 3 or 4 years, right? Like, if there's so much, it's just so telling, because they're not doing any research. They're not doing any, forensic accounting to discover waste, fraud, and abuse. They're just cutting, and rehiring people when they need to later. And, 24 people died last night. People are dying. People died because they did not get enough warning for tornadoes. And because they were fired, right? They fired all these people from NOAA. So this is what happens. 24 people died in the past 48 hours because they didn't have ample warning to get out of the way of tornadoes, because the forecasters have been fired because of waste, fraud, and abuse. So, I don't know what to tell you, except we got to keep calling, stay on track, try not to argue with idiots online. It's a waste of our energy, even though I should take my own advice at times. But keep calling. Hopefully we can get this thing crushed by Memorial Day, and at least get the Medicaid cuts out of it. Of course, once it goes through the House, even if it passes the House, it still has to go to the Senate, and the Senate will make changes. So again, this is one battle in a very long war. But, if you remember when they tried to repeal ACA in 2017 and 2018, that went on for 2 or 3 years. And it was just constant calling. And they brought up and voted on 11 different bills to repeal ACA. And finally, there was that dramatic moment where John McCain cast the deciding vote to not eliminate ACA or repeal ACA and all that. But that was years. But that's, I don't want this to go on for years. So let's do what we can, unite with other groups, unite with the agency or the nonprofit that aligns with your child's disability, and support them. and support others who are, it might be there's the American Association of Persons with Disabilities. There's a lot of big groups, little lobbyists. If you have a little kid with disabilities, Little Lobbyists is a great group to hang on to. And some of their leadership was actually at the Capitol last night at 1 a.m. For this committee meeting. They showed up. So kudos to them for that. Of course, ADAPT has been very, what's the word I'm looking for, prominent, and getting themselves arrested and going to protest and all that. So hang in there. Find joy in each day. Do not let them crush our spirit. And again, I will remind you that today is the last day to sign up for my training. So stay dry. I have to go get ready for an IEP meeting, and enjoy the weekend if I don't go live before then.
Thank you for listening to Don't IEP Alone with Special Education Advocate Lisa Lightner. We're so glad you've joined us and would love to connect with you outside of the show. For more information about Lisa, the IEP Toolkit, and more ways we can help you in your process, go to adayinourshoes.com. From self-care tips to common IEP mistakes, there's even more to explore. Don't forget to rate and review the podcast and subscribe to never miss an episode. Until next time, don't IEP alone, and you don't have to.